Started here at 11:15. Just doing a quick mic check. If you can hear me, you can go ahead and post something in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. And we'll start at 11:15. Hello everyone, this is Maureen Clausen and I'm with IT Training, and welcome to our webinar today. We'll get started here at 11:15. I know that some of you may have been in our last webinar. I do have somebody that typed in the Q&A, FYI, that they got knocked out, and I will tell you that was probably my fault because I was setting up this webinar. So please don't blame it on Zoom. I'll take full responsibility for that one. I am so sorry. We are going to post recordings later, and we'll probably do answer some of those questions that we received earlier and have those online as well. So apologies again. I'm just doing a quick mic check, and if you can hear me, go ahead and type your name or a hello in the Zoom chat. Yay, a lot of people jumping on board. right, well, we're so glad to have you here today. My name is Mulry Clausen, and I am part of IT training. And I will be the producer for today's webinar. So I'll be answering questions in the chat as I can, and also in the Q&A and keeping an eye on that. So that's my role today. With me today is Rachel Mulry. She'll be presenting the Work from Home Essentials. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Rachel.
Excellent. Thanks, Lorraine, and welcome everybody to the Working from Home Essentials. We're so glad that you joined us today. First of all, thank you for all of your support to campus during a very crazy and trying time. Please know we're all in this together and hang in there. I'm going to go through several different things today. I know that working from home introduces a whole variety of new technology and challenges. Please know that you won't absorb all of that in this session today, but we will have it recorded. We do have videos and documentation on everything on our website. And of course, we're always here standing by ready to help you. So please don't hesitate to ask if you have any questions, to reach out to us, and we'll make sure we get through this successfully. So I thought today we're going to talk about the equipment that you might need working remotely, some of the technology tools that are available to you, general tips for telecommuting, and additional resources. And then of course, I want to leave some time for question and answers because I'm sure there are a ton of questions. You can type those in the chat or the Q&A session, and Lorraine will pipe in whenever I need to address something quickly, but we'll leave plenty of time. So let's get into what equipment you might need if you're going to work remotely. Obviously, for long work, you're going to need a computer. So either your home computer or a laptop computer. You'll need an internet connection, a telephone of some sort, perhaps, and a webcam is optional, but very helpful. And we'll talk about each of those things and how those are used just a little bit. It is okay for you to use your home devices. So I know many of us have a computer at home, and there were questions about, is it okay for me to log into my SMU accounts and use those computers at home? The answer is absolutely. The reality is we don't have enough laptops to distribute to everyone today. And there's a shortage around the country of laptops, so personal devices, totally fine to use. However, you do need to make sure that those devices are secure. So that means make sure that they have been updated to the latest OS patches. If you have any home machines that are still running Windows 7, please, please, please upgrade those to Windows 10 ASAP. Make sure that you have antivirus software installed and that it is a clean environment, basically a secure environment for you. Be mindful of what you download and store locally. And this is where I'm talking about any files that you may have access to for your work that may also have sensitive information. If you work in financials, if you work in with student records, if you work in anything that has a lot of private information, we're used to sometimes downloading that and storing it on our desktop. Please be extra careful not to do that when you're working from home on a personal device. We don't want that data out there in all of our homes. Secondly, I know that many of us will be navigating the work at home with a bunch of kids and a spouse perhaps that are also in the same environment and using the same computer at times. Please be mindful of logging out of any of your accounts at SMU when you're not on that machine so that your child doesn't accidentally hop on and get into some of those accounts. And then finally, remember that a bunch of the software that we have here available to you on campus is available for you to install on your home computer. So Microsoft Office is available to everyone. I think you get 10 installs of that. You just go to office.smu.edu. Adobe has also released some of the licensing restrictions, so you can install the Creative Suite on your computer at home. There's a bunch of other ones, see our website, but just know that most of the software that you use on campus, you will have access to on your home machine as well. In terms of your internet connection, we are assuming that you have that figured out at home, and that should be sufficient for most of your needs. Most of our services are available from off campus with your home wireless, your home DSL, cable, whatever service that you have. as well as even your cell phones. There are a few services that require the SMU VPN connection before you're able to access those. A few of those are the SMU Financials, Sitecore if you do any web editing, the network drives, TUV, etc. And there's a few other software applications. It is recommended that you do store some files that you're going to use regularly. Store that in Box if it's currently on the V drive or the T drive. You won't want to stay connected to VPN all day long to access those drives. The network drives can be mapped on your home computer. It is a little nuanced, so we have instructions out there. But again, try and gather the documents that you have and that you're going to need and put them in Box where you can get them from wherever you are in the world, regardless of VPN access. Now, you will need VPN if you're going to remote desktop into your office computer, and I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. We are currently limited in our number of VPN licenses. We increased it to 2,500, and we are working on a new VPN solution that will expand to 30,000. I hope to have good news that that is in place by the end of the week. So I would say if you rely on VPN, just stay tuned because we may have some changes coming later this week to support a lot more folks using it remotely. Remote desktop. This solution is where you can, from your home machine, connect to the SMU campus using the SMU VPN, and then establish a connection from your home computer to your office computer. And then what you're presented on your home computer is the screen of your office computer. So that means you're actually working on your office machine, running software on your office machine, and accessing files that are stored or available to you from your office machine. It does require that you do some setup in advance while you are still in the office on campus. And then from home, you'll need to connect to VPN first before establishing that remote desktop connection. Again, step-by-step instructions are on our website, and the help desk can do a remote session and get all of that set up for you. But there is a component that has to happen before you leave campus. If that's of interest, make sure you check out those documents today. The one caveat or the one kind of gotcha on remote desktop is this is only a reliable solution if your office machine powers on or remains powered on. So if the power goes out for any reason, that computer would be inaccessible. And so I always recommend people have a backup plan. So let's talk about telephone service real quick. I know a lot of us rely on our SMU office numbers to answer calls. So we're kind of in this unique situation where we have two phone services on campus. We have the old, that beige phone, and we have the new, the nice flashy new black audio codes phones. If you are on the old phone service, meaning you're still answering those beige phones, then you must forward, or you can forward your SMU number to your cell phone or to your landline, whatever you choose. You have to do that from your office. You just pick up the handset and you press *3 and then dial your forwarding number, and then you're good to go. If you are already remote and you need assistance doing that, you can put in a help desk request. We'll have to configure that. Our telephone team will have to configure that for you, but we do recommend trying to put that in place before you go to remote work. Don't forget to update your voicemail greeting and any departmental numbers that you also answer. Those can be a little tricky from home. So think about updating voicemail on there. Again, you will always receive that email message saying you have a voicemail, here's the message, and you can respond to that. But just consider some of those options of updating the voicemail, the message, and then forwarding. If you're on the new phone service, the exciting thing is that you can really go about your business with very little disruption. So you can install Skype for Business on your mobile phone or your home computer, and then you can answer calls just like you were at SMU from either of those devices. You don't have to forward anything, you just sign into Skype and the calls will automatically appear on whatever device that you're using. You'll notice I'm modeling the mono headset for Skype certified calls. We have several of these on campus ready to deploy to you. It does require a budget code. If you go to smu.edu/techsales, they are available for purchase. We have both the single ear model and then one that is on both ears, the stereo model. And we have a couple of wireless ones. Not very many, but we do have those others. So smu.edu/techsales, you place the order and we are rapidly deploying them as those are placed. I'm going to pause for a moment real quick. Lorraine, do we have any questions going I should answer?
Yes, we do have a few questions. First of all, if we have the old phone and you're forwarding to your personal cell phone and you have an out-of-state number, how does that work with long distance codes?
Wow, good question. So yes, I don't think that works. Why don't we test that and get back to whomever was asking? I do not believe that that will work. I think it has to be a local number.
Okay, and that was submitted by an anonymous attendee. So if someone can send that question to ittraining@smu.edu so we can give you the answer, that would be helpful. And then a couple other questions. Rachel, you talked about remote desktop use and having a backup plan. What should that look like?
Good question. So the backup plan is really to consider what files that you would actively need. If you have files that are on your desktop that you might need from home, I would go ahead and put those in Box or OneDrive today so that you can access them. You could also just look at, okay, what files have I accessed in the past 30 days and put those in Box so you have them. Probably something from, 10 years ago, it's most likely you won't need. But I would kind of think through that and put them in Box. The software tends to be the other one, and I think a lot of people rely on remote desktop to access files that are on the V drive or certain services that are only available on campus. But again, that's where VPN becomes critical, and you're able to access those services without getting onto your home office machine.
Great. And then question about VPN. Are you saying that we should not remain remoted in VPN all day while working remotely?
That is my suggestion because we are currently limited. We are going to be utilizing the VPN client to allow students to access our computer labs while off campus. The licensing for a lot of that software is a little bit more problematic for them to use at home. So they will be relying on remote desktop and VPN to get to those computer labs. At this time, when VPN is limited, I would say don't camp out on it if you don't need it. Again, our hope is that in the next day or so, we will have a new VPN client that can support 30,000 connections, and then it won't be an issue, and you're welcome to camp out on it. But it's just a matter of how quickly we can get that fully tested and deployed.
Great, and we have a few questions about phone instructions, and I just want to point out that in the chat there is a hyperlink for the old phone instructions because people are asking about those instructions, as well as those of you who have questions about how to set up voicemail and such with the new phone. If you go to smu.edu phone, you can click on documentation and training, and you'll see all of the information there as well. We also had a question about what is an OS patch, and then also a little bit about the antivirus software. They were told by the help desk the other day that they didn't need antivirus because of Windows Defender. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Good question. So OS is just operating system. So that's Windows or Mac, whatever software you're using on your home computer. And both of those systems should be set, unless you changed it, to automatically update the computer. But like Microsoft patches were just released, so it should be prompting you to reboot and apply those patches. Please do. But you could always just go check for Windows updates. If you hit Start and Windows updates, it'll it'll pull up that menu to check. And then from Apple, it's under the Apple menu, I believe, software updates. So just, that's an OS update. It's just basically make sure your system is running the latest and greatest software that's available in all of those security patches. Windows Defender is an antivirus application or anti-malware application, so you're fine as long as that is enabled. But make sure that you do have something providing that functionality on your machine.
Okay, we have a few other questions, but I'm going to try to answer those in the chat and just let you continue with your presentation.
Okay, let's move on to webcams. I think this is going to be very critical for us as we kind of disperse across campus, that nothing can replace that face-to-face interaction. We all know that sometimes email loses tone, that chat even loses tone, and that sometimes face-to-face is best for us to feel connected. Again, we have ordered a ton of webcams. We have them here at the help desk. You can order those through the Tech Sales portal. That's smu.edu/techsales. We will have them immediately available for you. This is a great tool, though, for those face-to-face audio and video interactions. And I went ahead and shared my video so you could see I'm standing in front of a webcam today. And I'm also using a headset just because I like to, but you don't have to because these have the audio built in as well. Many laptops already have that built in, but some of the older ones, or certainly a desktop, won't necessarily have that built in. So know that they're available. And we've got some very inexpensive ones around 25 bucks up through the nicer ones at $68. So not super onerous from a cost perspective. It is not required, but it is super helpful as we do a lot of online meetings in the next couple weeks to come. And I know some of you were on the Zoom meeting today, and there was the Skype for Business as well. Those are two online meeting platforms. The video always kind of helps bring that personal touch to those interactions. So I just mentioned we have Zoom. We just signed an unlimited license with Zoom, so all faculty, staff, and students have access to Zoom for online meetings. There is an Outlook plugin you can download. It makes it quick and easy, but you can also just go to smu.edu/Zoom, log in, and get started. I love Zoom. I find it very simple and easy and very powerful. And obviously we're using that today. So check that one out. The other one is Skype meetings, Skype for Business meetings. This is a very powerful platform. And I think it is kind of the, at least for OIT, it's our de facto online meeting. When all of our meetings, we have a Skype component to it to support remote work. However, there are some nuances today in using Skype for Business simply because we're still between the old phone and the new phone. So it's a little bit nuanced, a little bit different. If you've been on the new phone system, it works pretty seamlessly. If you're not, then there's a few hurdles. It is primarily for faculty and staff SMU use. And then Teams is another option. And I'm going to speak a little bit about Teams in a few slides from now. But there are also some meeting tools within Teams that can be used. It would not be my go-to. I would start with Zoom probably, but Teams offers some great functionality as well. So here's what's fun as we move to online meetings, and if you've seen some of these memes, there's a reason they exist. So some of this lingo is what you typically hear in an online meeting. Can you please mute? Who just joined? Can you share that? Can you email? Can you see this? Can you hear me? So all of those, have some fun with it as we all learn how to host an online meeting successfully, but I thought I would share some tips and tricks on how to be in an online meeting. And first of all, be mindful of your video feed. So yes, people will see how you're dressed. I'm sure a lot of us will be in t-shirts, and that's okay, but be mindful of your appearance. Also what's in the background, right? So I made sure that my whiteboard was erased before I started this. But if we're at home, you might want to just make sure that you know, the background is okay, that you're not revealing anything you wouldn't want seen. And then of course the position of your camera. You don't want it looking down on you. You don't want it looking up at you, or like, you know, leaning into your camera and showing everybody just your hair. So just being mindful of that video and the interplay with the video. Always announce yourself when you join online. Particularly with Skype for Business, it'll pop up with your picture, and so it's pretty clear who is on the call at that time and who's joining. Zoom is a little bit different depending on how you log into it. So it's always good to just say, hey, you know, Rachel's on the call, so that everyone knows you're there. One of the most critical, I think, is to make sure that you mute your microphone during online meetings when you are not speaking. In this webinar, we could mute you on the controls, so everyone's muted except for me. But just be mindful when you join a meeting, you'll want to mute so that they don't hear all of the background noises. And then be quick to unmute when you need to speak. So that often, in my opinion, slows down a meeting, is when people are talking and they're still on mute, and did you unmute? Wait, we can't hear you, and it just kind of interrupts the flow. So make sure you're familiar with muting and unmuting. Another pet peeve of mine is that it is very easy on an online remote meeting to become distracted with every other tool or task and not be fully present in a meeting. So we tend to do things that we normally wouldn't do if we were sitting at the same table with each other. So make sure you close your Outlook or close your Skype if it's popping up notifications, or try and be present to the meeting discussion so that it is an effective meeting. And then finally, if your computer is not functioning right, if you can't get audio, if you can't get the video camera working right and you're fumbling around, don't forget your cell phone is a perfect device that you can call in and join those meetings. There's both an app for Zoom and Skype for your cell phones. You can also just call the meeting and dial in and hear the conversation. So always have that backup plan. As we work remotely, technology is going to be a little quirky at times, so have that backup. Let's talk about collaboration, because again, that's going to be critical. Email, of course, is an option. Skype chat feature is a great option. And then we also have Box and Teams. And I'm going to go through each of those pretty quickly. There's always the question of, well, when do I email, when do I Skype, and when do I do a phone call? Email, great for longer messages, those that require reflection on your answers, or when response is not urgent. And remember, if we want an immediate response, please don't use email. I think we all need to help build some boundaries around our expectations on email response. It is not typically the mechanism for, I need an answer right this second. Chat and phone is a little bit better for, I need a very quick answer and I need it now. So quick conversations are great over chat, checking in with each other, great over chat. Obviously, if something's very critical, or where there's an issue about tone, where that is critical, or where clarity of direction is really needed, I recommend picking up the phone. There's nothing like that two-way immediate conversation. I will say another pet peeve of mine is be careful of the reply all in email threads. I think all of us will see an influx or an increase of emails in our mailbox because people are remote. You're going to get a lot more email. So just be mindful of adding to that volume for everybody. Include clear subject lines and use the to and carbon copy fields appropriately. That kind of helps you filter out where you really need to jump in and assist. So that's communication. Box, again, if you haven't used Box, it's a great resource, not only for storing working files, but you can and accessing those from any device anywhere in the world, but it's also a great collaboration tool. You can work on a document at the same time within the browser. You can also have this document check in and check out feature. It also integrates with Microsoft Office, so that you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner of that slide, I can go to Excel and do a new or do open, and it prompts me to open a file straight from Box. That does require a plugin to be installed for that to work, but it's a very quick install. And then it's fabulous because I just open up Office no matter what machine I'm on, and I can access all my files that I've stored in Box very easily. So Box is a great resource. Again, tons of information on our website and webinars on that should you need them. Teams is a newer one for SMU. I believe we launched this summer officially, and I've got to say I'm hooked. I love it. I think it's very powerful. You can create your own teams. It doesn't have to be just a departmental team. So you see I have several different ones here. Each team can have a different set of features. So there's an automatic chat and discussion board. You can create your chat channel that's on a single topic. This is great for teams or projects. We have several of them in OIT that we get the play-by-play, but you have the full conversation thread, so you don't have to keep watching it, or if you close your Skype window, you lose out on some of those conversations. In Teams, it just keeps the entire history of that thread, so you can catch up on it when it's more convenient for you. It integrates with Box, it integrates with OneNote, so it really is a platform you can jump into. You can use project tools, you can use file storage and collaboration tools, chat tools. It's just very, very flexible. And of course, you can do some online meeting tools and screen sharing within Teams as well. More on that on our website, of course. Very easy to really just jump in there and use. So I encourage you to look at that as your teams move remote. Finally, this came through today. Somebody had the question at the help desk asking about, how do I circulate documents for signatures? Normally, we would have somebody go take a document and sign it, and then I would have to file it somewhere else or send it to somewhere else and move that around. What is the best way to do that? DocuSign is the best solution. Yes, there are options within Adobe. It is not as streamlined or easy. So DocuSign would be my guidance for what solution to use. You can create a quick workflow saying, okay, I need these 3 people in this order to sign this document. They can do it all electronically, and it's very, very simple. Before I move on to resources, Lorraine, I'll pause for questions.
There. Sorry about that.
There you go.
So we have a couple of questions. One of them is regarding security suggestions for dialing into a Mac. Do you have any?
So for remote desktop for Macs?
It just
That's what
says
it sounds like.
Security suggestions for dialing into a Mac, probably is my guess.
So the same as Windows. So I mean, just make sure that you have your software up to date, and yeah, you know, that's pretty much it. So all of the other same parameters apply. Needing VPN, needing a remote desktop. I'm not sure with the dialing in part, but we're happy to walk through that if they want to give the help desk a call. But the same parameters apply to get into a Mac. The process is a little different to remote into a Mac, and again, that is outlined on our website too. Perfect.
And also, any recommendations before we would upgrade from Windows 7 to 10?
Know that it's going to take a couple hours. Most hardware will be compatible with it. We have had very few applications that haven't been compatible. I believe when you start the upgrade process, it does a quick check to let you know if there are issues. But I would encourage anyone. Windows 7 is end of life, no longer supported by Microsoft, and therefore no longer secure. And that occurred in February. And so we are now a full month out, actually January. So we are now 2 months out of security patching for Windows 7. So please upgrade very quickly on that one.
Perfect. We also had a question about accessing the Q Drive for financial reports. Does VPN allow me to access that remotely from my laptop? And then just some clarification on how VPN works if you use your laptop and you do not have a desktop at work.
Okay, very good question. Let's start with the Q Drive. Yes, you can access the Q Drive. Again, you would connect to SMU VPN, and then you would need to map the Q Drive on your computer or remote into your computer at the office that has the Q Drive. We have instructions on how to map a network drive. That, again, I would look at those step-by-step instructions because it's a little tricky. But basically, you'll look at the network path. Right now, if you look at your computer, it probably says like, I'll use the V drive example. It has V, ITS dollar, and then parentheses, and it's got a server name, smu.edu/files. So what I would do is map the drive in the reverse order. That's the tricky part. So it's smu.edu/files/ITS $. again, those instructions are on our site. Yes, you can access the Q Drive. And so the same question, if you are using VPN from your laptop, what it does is you establish your connection to your internet service, so whatever that is. And then when you connect to VPN, it actually encrypts that network traffic as if you were here on campus. So instead of it appearing that your network is with AT&T or Spectrum or whatever, it is actually coming from SMU. So all of the resources then, if it was a website, you could just navigate straight to a website. If it's network drives, you would have to map those. And then you can access the content on those.
Perfect. We had a couple of questions about DocuSign. How widespread was the access, and also can we archive those documents, or do we have to download them into a file?
I don't remember how many licenses we have for DocuSign, but I would say don't let that be the barrier to you right now. We are working with a ton of vendors, and vendors are really being very generous right now to support all of this remote access. So if you really need it, I would go ahead and use it, and we will figure out on the back end some of the logistics regarding licensing.
And Kurt just piped in. He said we
good.
have enough licenses that documents are stored for at least 6 months.
There you go. And when you set up a document to go through the workflow, it does email you a copy of that document at the end. So you would have that copy in your email as well as on the DocuSign website. Thank you, Kurt.
Great. And then just one last question, and I'll let you get back to your presentation. If someone needed to scan something, can they use the Adobe Scan app on their phone using the Adobe Site License?
I believe so. I would also tell you that pictures work great, and I think even the newer iPhones have a built-in scanning tool in them. So there are plenty of ways to scan something. Go ahead and try the Adobe Scan. I think if it's part of the suite, then we should have it. We should have access to it.
Yep, and Cam Scan is another app that I use that I would recommend. So yeah, I'm going to mute myself, and then I'll let you get back to your presentation.
Excellent. So these are great questions, so please keep them coming. The other thing I want to make sure that you all know are some of the resources that are available to you to help you kind of navigate and find instructions. I've said it before, our website has tons of information, probably too much. So knowing how our website is set up might be helpful to you. So it's smu.edu/OIT. You'll see under the services drop-down menu, if you click on just services, it will bring you to a page where there's an A to Z listing. You can search by category, all different ways. But when you get to a service page, for example, this one is the Zoom service page, all of our services have tabs that say, here's how to get started. Here are the requirements or licensing restrictions, etc. Here's documentation and training. That is your key. So we try and build out videos. You'll see the Zoom video there. A shout out to Zach Peterson, who's been cranking these out like crazy to make them available. But it's a get started to each service. We also have links to LinkedIn Learning resources, or the vendors also have a ton of videos, and then FAQs, etc. So I would always start with our website and looking at what we have available, because I bet it will answer a good number of your questions very quickly. If that doesn't work, the wiki.smu.edu, once you log in, there is a help desk knowledge base there that has a ton of other information about typical calls that come into the help desk. So that's a great resource. And many of our training guides are also there. So you'll see I have a screenshot of the my.smu help. We have everything built out about using my.smu, whether you're a student, a faculty, or staff. It's all there with videos, with step-by-step. So know that that is available to you. LinkedIn Learning, there are thousands of tutorials and training opportunities. So if some of you, as you are remote, have some downtime or get stuck and need some additional assistance, they have a ton of videos. Some of them are just a couple minutes long. Some are hours and hours, so you get to kind of work at your own pace. But don't forget that those are available, because it's a great opportunity to learn some new skills. Of course, the help desk is always here to help you. We know that we're going to have a higher volume of calls. So I am working on getting my desktop support team to also jump on the help desk to answer those calls and get those resolved quickly. We are implementing a new technology tonight that would allow us to answer those calls remotely. So please know that we're doing everything we can to make sure that you have access to us and to our teams without interruption during this time. You can always get in touch with us at our number, the 84357, or if you email help@smu.edu, it will create a ticket, and then we will respond to you just as quickly as possible. We do use Twitter and blog for a lot of our announcements. If we start hearing a bunch of questions at the help desk, we will always put a blog post out there and say, hey, here's the training guides, here's how you do this. We're getting a bunch of questions on this. So check that if you're interested. It's a great resource. And then for this period, you may have noticed the 3 websites that have been erected, the Keep Working, Keep Teaching, and Keep Learning. We are trying to just aggregate all of the information on those 3 sites so you don't have to go hunt around. So you'll notice a bunch of our guides and training videos have been posted there to make it a very quick, easy resource for you to find answers. Finally, just some tips for telecommuting. I actually did telecommute for 4 years back a long time ago in 2001 when it was a very rare thing to do. So I have some experience on telecommuting. The first tip that always comes up when you research this is separate work life and home life. That is so much easier said than done. And we all know that our home life these days is going to be a little bit different too with everyone being at home. So as best as possible, try and establish some boundaries around your work. These are my working hours. And then turn your attention to your family after those working hours. It's difficult because you don't have that transition time of packing up my office and heading out to my car, but try and come up with a routine so that you do establish that balance or that separation between it's time at work and it's time at home. Your environment is critical. Make sure you have the technology you need. Make sure that you have it set up so that it is comfortable for you to work in that environment as best as possible. Communication is so important during this time, so please communicate regularly and frequently with your teams, your coworkers, and of course your supervisor. We need to check in with each other during this time. Sometimes working from home can be very isolating, so make sure you're staying in touch with each other. Use your Skype presence indicator to let people know you're available. Skype's awesome to just chat with each other when you need something. Use that, I'm busy, do not disturb, I'll be right back, those kind of things, just to signal when you are present and available to others. Don't forget to get up and walk around. When I work at home, I will all of a sudden look up and realize I haven't stood up or stepped away from the computer for 8 hours, and that's not good. So make sure you get up, take a little walk, take a little stretch break, because you may not have the same interruptions that you do on campus. When you're finished your work for the day, go ahead and shut down your computer. That's the signal that I'm done with work. It's time to transition. So just a suggestion. And then reach out for help when needed. Again, we're all in this together. Please reach out. My team is standing by, ready to assist. And I know a lot of people at this university are all here to support and make sure we're successful in this. Final plug is that there is an HR telecommuting form on their website that needs to be signed if your supervisor is approving remote work for you. So please make sure you take care of that. And I think that is all. So finally, the last questions.
Okay, there was a question that came in regarding remote desktop, and can you set that up on an iPad Pro?
Yes, you can. You have to download a specific remote desktop app to do that. I believe I'm pretty sure the instructions on our website have the iPad instructions as well.
Great. I know that there are some discussions about this, and if you have any insight on what do we do if a computer loses power while we're home and we can't access the building to turn it back on?
Yes, so there are some things that my team is looking at today to see what can be done. the solution we currently have is not reliable to kind of wake up the computer remotely. So if we are still on campus, if I still have some team members on campus and we can get to your computer to hit the button, we will. But again, that's where I'd recommend having a backup plan. So more to come on the remote desktop if it loses power, but please have a backup plan just in case.
Great. And then a couple other questions. Can we call out from our SMU number on our cell phone so our personal number doesn't pop up?
If you are on the new phone system and you're dialing through Skype for Business, those calls will appear to come from your SMU number, so your personal number will not pop up. That is not the case if you are on the old phone system. It will come from your cell phone, and there's no workaround other than to get like a Google Voice number, which is again just a little more complexity.
You can
go ahead, Lorraine.
Interrupt. This question came up this morning in our Skype for Business. You can also do *67 and it will block caller ID.
Thank you. Good tip.
And then there was a question about the telecommuting form on the HR site. Do we know where that is? I think if you maybe go to the front page, I'll look for it and type it in the chat here in a second.
And I'm pretty sure it's also on that main blog that the university is putting together. So I'll make sure that link is on our Keep Working site so that everybody can get to it.
Rachel, can you tell me what the contingencies for SMU-owned hardware issues are?
The contingencies. If I can get some clarity on that question. If you have a laptop, obviously bring it home and use that. We have a very limited number of laptops to check out. Most of those have already been checked out at this point. Yeah, most of our desktops, I wouldn't recommend taking those home unless you have, I just wouldn't take them home unless you have Ethernet and stuff, and you got to be real careful moving some of that equipment. So I would stick to mainly laptops if that's the question. And those can certainly be brought home and used at home.
Okay, and the last question I've received was, if President Turner closes the campus, do we all have to complete the HR form? And I'm not sure IT can answer that.
I cannot answer that one. I'm sure if that is the case, that they will provide guidance on what needs to happen at that point.
Okay, that's all the questions I have. Rachel and I can stay on the line for another few minutes if anybody else has questions they want to add. Oh, here comes a few. All right. If we are all instructed to work remotely, will there continue to be OIT support?
Yes. Yes, so we are, like I mentioned, the operator line and the call center, the help desk line, we're putting something in place, a new technology in place tonight so that they will be working remotely. Our desktop support team will work remotely and can do remote sessions with you from their house. We will continue to be here to support you, and we're actually extending our hours as well, at least this week on Friday, to make sure we're there for the transition. So yes, you've got our support and we will be here to help you.
Great. And then laptops. Will laptops continue to receive security updates remotely?
Oh, fabulous question. Yes, but you'll need to connect to the VPN occasionally. So for Windows laptops, just know that the March round of security updates was just released. So this week you should be getting prompted to reboot your computer. Please do that. And then you should be pretty good for the next month until the next round of patches are released. But that is where VPN helps. Some of the patching does get through without the VPN, but connecting to VPN will get some of those other ones that are kind of restrictive.
All right. And then if your laptop breaks down in some way, I imagine they'll call the help desk and we'll...
Call the help desk, we'll figure out something. I would say that they certainly can be your first round of a touch point. So just ask. We may not have an answer immediately for every scenario, but please don't hesitate to reach out and we'll figure out something for you.
And Rachel, I think that's all that's come in at this point. We are getting quite a few thank you for this presentation. So thank you for putting this together, Rachel. I know
Awesome.
everyone's appreciative. We'll hang out in this webinar just for a few more minutes in case there's any other questions, but I guess we'll officially close it.
Thank you all. Hang in there.